Isn't it wild to think that some of the hardest moments we have been through, the moments where we didn't know if we wanted to be here, are now the very moments, the very reasons why we do want to be here? In a minute, I'm going to invite everyone, only if you want to close down your eyes or lower your gaze. Not yet, please listen for instructions. But when we close our eyes, I'm going to tell you to think of a time that was really challenging that you've since moved through. So something that you're no longer processing, but that you went through and you got through. So everyone take a deep breath. Inhale, belly, body expand. Exhale, belly, body, release. Relax, soften. Feeling the chair beneath you, the air around you. And then with eyes closed or gaze lowered, I want you to think of a time that was really difficult. Again, one that you've moved through, but that was really difficult. And maybe as you start to think of it, sensations arise in your body. We'll just be here for a moment. Maybe you start to feel the pain, anxiety, sadness, fear. And then taking a deep breath and placing one or both hands on your heart, reminding yourself that you made it through, that you're no longer there, that you're here, and that no matter what happens, that journey is proof of your strength, your resilience, and your ability to overcome odds. Again, taking a few deep breaths, maybe giving yourself a hug, shaking it out. Exhale. And then fluttering eyes open, reorienting to the space of the now. And I invite you to look around. Really look. Look into people's eyes, hearts, souls. Recognize that every person here has been through something. We all have. And every day we pass people that are going through wild pain, and we would never know. At a time when there is so much atrocity and pain in the world, it can feel impossible to know that somehow, some way, things will be okay. And by no means am I condoning any of those things. What I also can say is I'm proof that darkness can lead to light. At 18, my dad was in a critical car accident. They literally had to cut him out of the car and called him a miracle boy for surviving overnight. He was in a body cast, he had wild surgeries, and it was touch and go. His lawyer for that accident, it wasn't his fault, people, but his lawyer ended up setting him up with my mom. If it was not for my dad almost losing his life, I would not have my life. And that's the thing. In the heat of the moment, in the heat of the trauma, we don't know what's coming. And it's so valid and it's so painful and it's so dark. And yet somehow, some way, in retrospect, one day, we may be like, wow, because of that, there's this. My parents birthed two miracles, my brother and myself. For those who don't know my brother, you should. He is my best friend and the best human I know, no offense. But Johnny is filled with so much light, so much love. He's my cheerleader, my inspiration, and truly the most genuine human I know. My brother is 4 years older, though it's as if he's younger. Jonathan has something similar to autism. It's called Fragile X syndrome. My parents, when Jonathan was diagnosed at 18 months, they found out that Fragile X is genetic. They knew they wanted to have another child, and they decided that even though I had a 50-50 shot of having Fragile X, they would get pregnant again. They got pregnant, and they had my cells tested in utero. At the time, Fragile X was super new, and the test was finicky. My cells were unclear. They didn't know if I had Fragile X. Yet they went through with the full pregnancy and birthed me, thank you very much. And on November 15th, 1993, an 80-degree day in New York, which is unheard of, not like here, but an 80-degree day in New York, I was born. And as I was born, I was genetically tested. At 6.5 weeks old, we found out that I don't have Fragile X syndrome, I'm not a carrier of Fragile X syndrome, and I don't have other diagnostics in my family lineage. I came to break the chain, to change the story. By 6 years old, I knew that Johnny was different, and I knew that one day it would just be him and me. I vividly remember telling my mom that I wanted to build him a home. While normal 6-year-olds are playing with Barbies and Legos, I was building real estate plans, no big deal. But in full honesty, it was a huge weight for my tiny shoulders and ginormous heart. So much life happened from my infancy, my childhood, and my teenage years. But those are stories for the book, so we're gonna fast forward to when I was 15. At 15, I woke up partially paralyzed. At 17, I had my whole large intestine, a vital organ, removed. At 19, I was internally bleeding. While my friends were partying and dating and thinking about college and jobs, I pretended to play along. But the truth was, I was going from doctor to doctor, facing wild possible prognoses, massive financial insecurity, and I was lucky if I could stay with one job and one college. As life went on, my mask went on. I pretended to be happy. I pretended that everything was fine. The mask was so potent that even I believed it. But then it started to have cracks. I could no longer hide from my pain. I remember feeling wildly alone, completely afraid and uncertain if I would ever make it. I also remember sitting across from top doctors with their Ivy League diplomas and fancy wooden desks as they looked at me like I was an enigma. They would pass me from doctor to doctor, surgeon to surgeon, clinic to clinic, as if I was an object rather than a human. It's wild to think that while Mr. Harvard was playing with his beard in peer-reviewed journals, my body actually knew exactly what she was doing. She was screaming for help. At the time, I didn't know this. In truth, I hated my body. I was so mad at her. I felt like I had no home, no net, not even a functional body. I developed an eating disorder. We were at a war. And then, when I was 19 years old, I was getting scar treatment done by an esthetician. Shout out to Rose Lodicio. She's in New York, but we love her. Thank you. And she offered to do a barter. She said, why don't you health coach me, and I'll do your scar treatment for free. At the time, I was taking a health coaching course more so to heal myself than others. But Rose saw a vision that was bigger than I could imagine. And because of her, I went into business. Because of her, I had a new North Star. 19 to 23 was rough. It was filled with so many transitions of hospitals, jobs, homes, schools, and so much more. But something shifted. When I was 21, I had my last surgery, and I felt that I went from fighting to healing. I started to realize that my body didn't hate me. She loved me. She was just trying to communicate with me. Our bodies don't speak English. They speak signs and symptoms. My leg, my partial paralysis, was because I was running from my truth. My large intestine, having it removed, was because I was just pushing everything down, 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 so full of garbage, pretending everything was okay. My internal bleeding was my martyrdom, bleeding out for others rather than myself. I became fascinated with somatics and how our bodies keep the score of everything we've been through and risen above. I healed myself physically. By 25, I was physically healthy. Can I get a whoop whoop? Woo! But we had to process what led the body to fight in the first place, meaning I had to heal emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. So we were just getting started. Anyway, at 25, I had loved yoga. I still do, hence we're in a yoga space. But I loved yoga, and I decided I wanted to book a one-way ticket to India to heal, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I spent months in India studying meditation, did a 10-day silent Buddhist retreat, alternative healing modalities, learned more about people and places, and I went in people. And when I say in, I don't mean I dip my toe. I mean I shave my head skin bald. okay? And if you're from New York, that doesn't go well, okay? So my New York friends were very concerned. They called me and they said, what the F, Danny? Like, what are you doing? Where my California friends were like, fuck Danny, right on, you know, the real ones. No, I'm just kidding. We love our New York friends too. But the truth is, I knew exactly what I was doing. I was tuning out the world so I could tune into a higher truth, a higher power. And I ended up hearing a message that rocked my world. I had a premonition that my dad was going to pass. As I told people back home, they thought I was bald and off my rocker. But I knew unshakably that it was about to happen. I cut my travels short, went back to California, gave away all my stuff, shipped my car back to New York, and flew to be with him. 5.5 weeks later, he passed. Thank God I listened. After that, my spiritual connection changed. The truth is, I was scared. I was scared of my power, of our power, to hear messages from the other side. I didn't want to hear those messages. At the time, I was living alone and facing the deepest, darkest waters of my life. I was screaming, crying, hitting the air, and I felt like I was losing it. I didn't want to be here, and I was afraid I was going to take my life. I ended up getting support, thank God, and not doing that. And then, after a lot of processing, in hindsight, I realized that as I was reliving the 25 years of all this stuff, I was also relieving it, getting it out of my mind, body, soul, and psyche. No repression, full expression. I truly healed, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I ended up going back to my coaching practice and fell in love with post-traumatic growth. The concept that trauma changes us, not just painfully, but also purposefully. It builds us into the best beings we can be. Of course, this is not to say we bypass. When you're in the trauma, you really can't even get out of the trauma. And then we need to process the trauma. But then something magical comes. We're different. I don't know about you, but I think people that process their trauma are quite interesting. I mean, people were braver, deeper, wiser, stronger, and hotter because of it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Woo-woo! No, but truly, right? These stories are the stories that make us who we are, that make us what we are, that inspire us to go deeper, wider, longer for humanity and for ourselves. So, I healed. And essentially, I recognized how far I came. I lived forward, right? I've lived forward. I'm the healthiest I've been physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I no longer have an eating disorder. My body is beautiful, strong, and able. I've lived in multiple cities, multiple states, solo traveled the world, RV'd the country, shaved my head as you heard, dated so many beautiful people, and not great ones too, but we send them love, fallen in love, made impact, made purpose, and literally have friends around the globe and some of the most beautiful people in my life, some of them I'm looking right at. So, the question is, what is the Live Forward movement? Why are we here, right? Live Forward is not just a brand. It's a concept, a mindset that no matter what happens in our past, with the right support and resources, we can always live forward. Live Forward, as of today, is opening its doors, and it's going to be an international community where there's events, workshops, retreats, an eventual podcast, and merchandise. Tomorrow, we open the doors to our online coaching community. Each of you for coming, thank you so much, will get one free week to our membership, where each week we host emotional health classes on anything and everything from self-love to financial wellness. They're recorded for access whenever you want. My vision for Live Forward is huge. One day, I would also love to offer pro bono services for foster youth and emancipated youth, causes that are close to my heart. I once heard a tale or a story that if you take one stick and you try to break it, it's easy. You take 10 sticks and you try to break them, it's harder. You take 1,000 sticks, 100,000 sticks, and you try to break them, and it's impossible. That to me is the power of community. That to me is true healing. When we know we're not alone. When we know that there are people who have been through and risen above wild pain, that when we're down on our knees, we can see them and know that if they can do it, we can do it too. So I'm so excited for this. And before we leave today, we cannot see the moon yet, but I'm going to tell you about the moon, okay? So we're here under the full moon. Why the full moon? Full moon is the best time to let go. Today is a really special full moon, as we heard earlier. It's a lunar eclipse in Pisces. And Pisces is a sign, a water sign of cleansing, clearing, and letting go. So I'm going to invite everyone to close down your eyes now again. Taking a few deep breaths. As you inhale, belly, body expand. And as you exhale, belly, body, release, relax, soften. And I want you to think of the version of you that walked into this event. Maybe what they were struggling with. And then I want to invite you to think of one thing that right here, right now, you get to let go of. Maybe it's a thought, limiting belief, lovingly a person, but something that you've processed enough that you can gently with your breath exhale and let it go. Using the power of your breath, the power of the moon, the power of community to let it go. And then still with eyes closed, I want you to think what live forward means to you. And then once you have that, opening your eyes, welcoming yourself back to the space, back to the now. Live forward for me, tears are always welcome. Live forward for me is the promise that my future will be better than my past. My past has a lot of beauty, and it also has a lot of pain. And I'm so excited for this mission and this vision. I look around and I see miracles. Truly, the odds of us being born are 1 in 400 trillion. 1 in 400 trillion. And you, each of you, are 1 in infinity, meaning there never was and there never will be another you as you are in this body, personality, and form. 1 in infinity, irreplaceable, undeniably irrepeatable. So just feeling that for a second, that's priceless. There never was, there never will be another you on this planet. Yes, souls, reincarnation, the whole thing, but as we are today. So, as we close, I just want to invite every single person to know that it's possible, that we can, we will, and we commit to living forward. Woo woo! Thank you for coming! Woo woo! Okay, now we're gonna have cacao. Thank you for the claps. Thank you for the